We have snow and rain for the Northeast on your Thanksgiving. Frigid cold will impact Central Plains and the Ohio Valley, and significant lake effect snows are in play this weekend. All this and more next at the Weather Farm. Happy Thanksgiving and welcome to the Weather Farm. I'm meteorologist Christopher Hale, and here is your weather forecast for today. We have an area of low pressure that is centered around West Virginia and southwestern Pennsylvania. It is bringing rain out ahead of it across parts of Virginia, down through the Carolinas into the southeast. And on the north side through Pennsylvania and New York, we have snow falling this morning for our Thanksgiving. This system will generally move to the north and east on our Thanksgiving Day and bring snow to the interior parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and eventually into Maine, while along the coast into Rhode Island, Connecticut, you will see primarily rain. There could even be a rumble or two of thunder associated with this system as it moves to the northeast. The other system we are watching today is centered just south of the Hudson Bay area. It is a low pressure area that is bringing snow to parts of Ontario and Quebec on our Thanksgiving. But out west, we are dealing with generally calm conditions. High pressure dominates the area as it's centered over the Rockies in Colorado. We do see an area of disturbed weather across parts of northern Mexico. That will also play an impact in the weather around Brownsville, Texas for this upcoming weekend. And as we move into our Friday, we see that the west is continuing to be influenced by that pressure area of high pressure. We see a little bit of snow across parts of Montana, but we keep our eye on that area of unsettled weather across British Columbia, making its way south and east. That Clipper system will move through the United States on our Saturday into our Sunday, bringing another shot of cold and snow. That low pressure that was in the northeast on our Thanksgiving is moving out into the Canadian Maritimes. A little bit of wraparound snow will be possible parts of Quebec and Maine, but the low pressure that is still centered over the Hudson Bay area, again, it's going to sit here for several days, and in its counterclockwise rotation around the low pressure area, it is going to bring significant lake effect snows to those parts south of Lake Superior, Lake Huron, Lake Erie, and Lake Ontario. The exact amounts of snow and the exact location of the snowfall is very much up in the air right now on our Thursday. As we get new model data in each and every time, we'll continue to refine that. And we're going to talk about why that happens a little bit later in this video. But I do want to point out that with that system on our Thanksgiving Day, we have hoisted winter storm watches and warnings across parts of interior New York, again stretching into Vermont, New Hampshire, and to the interior parts of Maine. We can see generally 4 to 8 inches across most areas with isolated 8 to 12 inch amounts. For our Thursday, we see that area of low pressure making its way out into the Atlantic Ocean by Friday morning, again bringing 4 to 8 inches of snow generally across parts of New England. The area of low pressure across Hudson Bay continues to sit and spin, and those areas around the Great Lakes, they will see the significant areas of snow. We do have a little Clipper system that's going to make its way through the Ohio Valley on Saturday, bringing another chance of snow for that area. But for the most part, most of the United States is going to enjoy quiet, calm conditions as we end our Thanksgiving weekend holiday and return to work and to school for our Monday. We will have a system that's going to dive out of Saskatchewan on our Monday into Tuesday, and it's going to affect primarily the upper Great Lakes. And that area of low pressure is going to continue to throw a chance of scattered rain across far southern Texas into the middle of next week. So taking a look at our snowfall maps, this is our snowfall map for our Thanksgiving Day. And generally, again, from the interior New York, upstate New York, through Vermont and into New Hampshire, a general 4 to 8 inch swath is likely. We could see isolated 8 to 12 inch amounts. As we get up into Maine, though, we could see significantly higher amounts, more in the 6 to 12 inch range, especially as we get up towards Holton, Maine. We do see some snows across the Great Lakes, 2 to 4 inches in general, and across the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, we generally will see around 4 to 6 inches of snow for our Thanksgiving. But however, as we mentioned, it is the lake effect snow machine that is going to take into effect as we move through the rest of this weekend. So if we remember, there's that area of low pressure that is just centered south of the Hudson Bay area. It is spinning in a counterclockwise motion around that area of low pressure. And when it does, if it gets in the right, if the winds come across the Great Lakes, here's Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, you have Lake Huron. If it hits the lake just right, and really for the snow, lake effect snows to really take effect, it needs a fetch. It needs a path of at least 50 miles. Probably 40 would be fine, but 50 is generally the number we look for. If we can find a fetch of where that wind is coming across the relatively warm waters of the Great Lakes, and it can pick up that moisture, and it can build up some convection, and then as it goes over land, deposit that moisture and that precipitation onto land, that's what's going to generate those significant lake effect snows. Again, we got to have that fetch of open water, which we will have it. We have relatively warm waters of the Great Lakes. Those are in play. So while we see this map showing places like in Erie County into far southwestern New York, we could see areas 15, 20, 25 inches. The thing with lake effect snow is it's very hard to predict because just the slightest change in the wind by just maybe 5 degrees in its direction or the intensity, it can greatly alter the amount of snowfall that you see in a particular location. So if that low wobbles just a little bit to the east or to the west, north or south, and the wind direction just changed ever so slightly as it comes across these lakes, this particular map could look a lot different in far terms of the snowfall falling. We get up here into New York and Oswego and Jefferson counties, you're predicting 30, 40, maybe an isolated 50-inch snowfall amount. But again, this map is very conditional upon the winds setting up exactly as this model thinks that they will. And that's a big if. So check back later in the weekend as we'll have updated information for that. And we're going to see the same thing across the Great Lakes. Again, that area of low pressure is to our north and east over the Hudson Bay. So as it spins in a counterclockwise direction, areas of northern Michigan are going to see lake effect snow off of Lake Superior. As that wind comes across Lake Michigan, as it wraps again in that counterclockwise, all those areas of Michigan are going to see snowfall. Not to the extent that we might see in places northern Michigan or over in Lake Erie and Ontario, but we could definitely see an area of 4 to 6 inches, maybe an isolated 8. Here in northern Michigan near Traverse City, again, 10 to 15 inches could be in play. A lot, again, is going to be dependent upon where the wind sets up and how it goes across the body of water to pick up that moisture and then precipitate, bring it on shore. The snowfall that you're seeing across Illinois and Indiana is related to the clipper system that we think will move through. So we can see a general area south of I-70 of about 1 to 2 inches in our Saturday night into our Sunday morning. Again, if that clipper system wobbles just a little bit north or south as it makes its way across the United States, that will also have an impact on our snowfall. We can see that snowfall extending out into parts of Missouri as well, with 2 to 3 inches likely out there. So let's put our temperatures into motion here. So for our Thanksgiving, we're going to see bitterly cold temperatures. Some areas of North Dakota not rising above 0 or remaining in the single digits. Across the Northeast, where we have the snow and rain, it's going to be a cold rain for the Macy's Day Parade in New York City. Temperatures in the 30s and 40s there. Moving into our Friday with that snow on the ground, especially for those areas that are getting that snowfall. At night, especially, your temperatures could be 10 or 20 degrees colder than just an area 5 or 10 miles away because of that extra snowpack. But we see sub-zero temperatures common across North Dakota for our Friday. Friday night into Saturday, we believe this will be the coldest night across the United States, with teens and sub-freezing temperatures dipping as far south into parts of Mississippi and Alabama, minus 10, minus 20 across parts of the Dakotas, and then we look up into Saskatchewan, minus 30 at night. Rebounding to near zero across the Dakotas, but staying below zero across parts of Alberta, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan. We do see a slight moderation to near freezing across the Ohio Valley, but again, those areas that are going to get that significant snowfall across the Northeast, your temperatures could be held down. And then as we move into our Sunday, again, another degree or two warmer from most areas, but again, 50s and 60s, a good eastern half of the United States remaining anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees below the seasonal norms. And we see temperatures are moderating across the parts of the Dakotas into our Sunday. And Sunday, as we begin that travel home, maybe from our weekend of visiting family and friends over the Thanksgiving, we have generally quiet conditions across the United States. An area of high pressure across southern Saskatchewan is going to keep the northwest flow of air from Canada down across the eastern half of the United States. And if we look at our outlook for temperatures for the next 8 to 14 days, taking us through that first full weekend of December into the second week of December, we see the eastern now third of the United States is expected to have below normal temperatures, while out west it is expected to remain significantly above normal. We do see some changes in the Arctic oscillation indices. And we talked about this in our previous video, and you can look at that one if you click the link up above. But the Arctic oscillation is expected to go positive sometime around the 4th through the 7th of the month. If that happens, then what that means is that that cold air will all stay bottled up north of the Arctic Circle, and it really won't be allowed to penetrate down into the United States. We still have the Western Pacific Oscillation that is maintaining that strong high across the Northern Pacific, but we really need the Western Pacific Oscillation to be negative and the Arctic Oscillation to be negative to really dislodge that polar air down into the eastern half of the United States. And with it ticking positive around the 6th, 7th, 8th, or 9th, we think that we will see a moderation in our temperatures across the United States during the second week of December. So it was something to continue to monitor, and we'll continue to check back here at the weather farm. But as we look at precipitation, after we get through this weekend with the couple chances of snow across the Ohio Valley and then around the Great Lakes with the lake effect snow, most of the United States is going to see below normal precipitation into that second week of December. I want to jump back to a map here that we talked about. And again, this is our Sunday map here that we talk about. And so people have asked me, well, what do these blue lines, what do these red lines indicate on this map? And we see other black lines on here. So the black solid lines indicate the contours of equal surface pressure. So the pressure that we see right here on ground level where you live. So here in Indiana, where I'm at right now, the pressure is around 29.8 inches of mercury, which is about 1,010 millibars, give or take. So these solid black lines tell you the equal surface pressure. The tighter that they are together, the windier that we're going to see. That's why we see up here around the Hudson Bay, we see these lines kind of tight together. It's associated with that area of low pressure that's up there been spinning, producing the lake effect snows across the Great Lakes over this weekend. So when these lines are tight together, that's where wind increases, because there's a big pressure gradient change across a short area. So the bigger the area and the smaller the pressure gradient change, and again, pressure gradient change meaning how close these lines are together over an area, the less windy it'll be. The tighter they are means the more pressure change across the same amount of area and the windier it's going to be. Now these red lines and these blue lines are 500 millibar height lines. They're height contour lines. And so we look at those 500 millibars typically resides about 18,000 feet up in the atmosphere, about 5,500 meters. Now these are in decameters, so it's just dropped to the last zero basically. So when we see these lines going south, and when we see areas, 520, decameters, 530 decameters. We generally get an idea that there is a trough somewhere around in that area. When we see these numbers rising with the reds into the 560s, and we see that they are kind of building in an area and getting higher as we move from west to east, we kind of think that that's where a ridge is, an area of high pressure. Stable air, sinking air, not a lot of cloud or storms going to happen in that particular area. So that's a quick idea of what this map does. We hope you've enjoyed your time here at the Weather Farm. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And personally, we are thankful for each and every one of you that have subscribed and helped to make this channel what it is. If you haven't yet, go ahead and click on that subscribe button, click that bell notification so you can be notified each and every time we go live with new material. Or if you just want to leave us a comment, say what a question is. And that's why we talked about that map we just talked about, is because of a viewer comment just like yours. Have a safe travel day. We hope to see you soon.